Often, we want to believe that all people are essentially good and that small character flaws can be corrected with time and effort. However, there are those who challenge this idea and demonstrate with their attitudes that evil can be part of their essence. Have you ever met someone who seemed to take pleasure in manipulating, emotionally hurting, or exploiting others for their own gain? Some toxic people leave obvious signs of their true nature, but others hide behind subtle little attitudes, such as microaggressions and disguised manipulations. In today's video, we are going to reveal 9 clear signs that you may be dealing with a genuinely bad person. Each of these signs is an important warning, but the last one is, without a doubt, the most essential in my opinion. Therefore, watch until the end so you don't miss this crucial information. Before we start, if you like this type of content, subscribe to the channel. Here, every week we bring impactful and revealing videos, and I'm sure you won't want to miss out. So, activate the notification bell to be notified whenever there is a new video here. Leave your like to support our work, and now, without further delay, let's go straight to the video. If you've ever met someone who shows satisfaction when they see another person suffer, know that this is a clear sign of evil. This type of individual might give a subtle smile when witnessing a difficult situation, make sarcastic comments about other people's pain, or even have fun remembering times when someone went through hardship. The simple idea of other people's suffering seems to bring them pleasure, which reveals a complete lack of empathy and a deeply disturbing trait of their personality. The danger of these people goes beyond a lack of compassion. Often, they're not content just to watch other people suffer, but they also become active agents of chaos. They might spread rumors to harm someone, sabotage colleagues at work, humiliate the weaker ones in public, or even manipulate situations so that others fail and, thus, they have what they consider a show to enjoy. Another alarming aspect is that often they're extremely skilled at hiding this behavior. In public, they might come across as nice, generous, and even helpful people, but behind the scenes, their actions reveal a frightening coldness. They're masters of the art of deception and emotional manipulation, knowing exactly how to turn people against each other without them realizing they've been used as pawns in a cruel game. If you notice that someone around you has this behavior, be careful. Being close to such a person can affect your emotional health, undermine your self-esteem, and even harm your personal and professional life. The ideal is to keep your distance whenever possible and never share information that could be used against you. Learn to identify this trait and protect yourself before you become the next victim. A striking characteristic of bad people is the uncontrollable need to dominate everything around them. For them, losing control over a situation or over someone is unacceptable, as they feel vulnerable and powerless when they don't have absolute command. Therefore, they do everything to ensure that every detail works exactly as they wish, manipulating people and circumstances so that the world revolves around their interests. This behavior manifests in various ways. They give opinions on everything, constantly interfere in other people's decisions, and try to shape reality to fit their particular vision. More than that, they make a point of undermining the autonomy of others, often subtly at first, until the victim realizes they are being completely dominated. One of the clearest signs of this excessive control is when someone starts dictating where you should go, who you can talk to, or what you can and cannot do. This type of imposition doesn't happen all at once. Generally, the controllers test limits little by little, gradually restricting your freedom until you find yourself trapped in a cycle of obedience and submission. If no one resists, they will continue to expand their domain, exploiting every opportunity to strengthen their influence. In addition to direct control, these people are also masters of emotional manipulation. They use blackmail, guilt, and even disguised compliments to bend the will of others. They can alternate between moments of extreme kindness and fits of rage, leaving their victims confused and emotionally exhausted. The more the target gives in, the more power the manipulator gains, and when they finally realize the trap, they are often already deeply involved. If you notice that someone close to you tries to impose their will on you all the time, be alert. Excessive control never comes from a healthy place. It is always linked to the desire for domination and a lack of respect for the individuality of others. Breaking this cycle can be difficult, but recognizing the problem is the first step to regaining your freedom. It's not always easy to identify a bad person just by what they do or say, but often our own body gives us warning signs. If every time you're close to someone you feel an unexplained discomfort, like sudden tiredness, anxiety, or a feeling that something is wrong, pay attention. This discomfort can be a reflection of the negativity that person carries, even if they haven't done anything clearly hostile to you yet. Our body and mind have an intuitive defense system that picks up subtleties that we can't always explain rationally. Just as we perceive the negative effects of spoiled food after consuming it, our energy field also reacts to what isn't good for us. People with bad intentions emit a vibration that can be felt in a subtle but real way. Often, even before their actions reveal their true nature, our instinct already perceives that something is wrong and alerts us through uncomfortable sensations. This type of intuition should not be ignored. Have you ever met someone who, even being polite and seemingly harmless, made you feel uneasy or drained just by being around? This can be a sign that there is something wrong with that person, something that may not yet be visible, but that your perception has already captured at a deeper level. Someone's behavior and intentions are not just in the words they say, but also in the energy they carry with them. If this happens to you, trust your instinct and keep a safe distance. If your impression is wrong, time will show it, and you can always apologize. But if you're right, keeping away can save you from big problems in the future. Remember, prevention is always better than cure, and your intuition can be a powerful ally in avoiding people who can bring negativity and suffering into your life. One of the most striking characteristics of bad people is the inability to acknowledge their own mistakes. For them, admitting a fault is unthinkable, as it would mean showing vulnerability, and vulnerability is something they avoid at all costs. Whenever something goes wrong, instead of reflecting on their actions and taking the consequences, they prefer to blame others, shifting any responsibility to those around them. This type of person is a master at distorting reality. If they see that blame is approaching, they will quickly find a convenient scapegoat, whether it's a friend, a coworker, or even the victim of their actions. And more than just throwing blame at others, they love to play the victim. Even when their actions are clearly harmful, they manage to manipulate the situation to appear wronged, arousing the compassion of those who don't see their true game. Another worrying trait is that these people simply don't feel responsible for the impact of their actions on others. They can hurt, lie, or deceive without remorse, as they believe that their words and actions don't need justification. For them, an apology is a sign of weakness, and therefore they will rarely admit they hurt someone. In many cases, they are so manipulative that they make the victims themselves feel guilty and end up apologizing for something they didn't even do. Living with someone like this can be extremely draining, as their lack of responsibility creates cycles of frustration and injustice. If you know someone who never admits their mistakes and always finds a way to avoid the consequences, be alert. People like this don't change easily, and if you don't set boundaries, you can end up being constantly manipulated and used as a scapegoat. The best way is to step away and avoid getting into their game, because in the end, whoever refuses to take their own blame never learns and continues repeating the same destructive patterns. If there's something that defines a bad person, it's their distorted relationship with the truth. For them, lying is not just an occasional resource, but a deeply rooted habit, a tool they use without the slightest weight on their conscience to manipulate, deceive, and gain advantages. If you know someone who lies all the time, even without apparent need, denying obvious facts or distorting reality, know that this behavior is not a mere slip, but a worrying pattern. Unlike the small lies that some people tell to avoid conflicts or protect feelings, the lies of malicious individuals are motivated by selfishness and manipulation. They fabricate stories to aggrandize themselves, add non-existent details to make their narratives more convincing, and even speak on behalf of others without their consent. When confronted, instead of admitting the truth, they simply tell more lies to support the previous ones, creating an endless cycle of falsehood. Some, if they feel they can no longer deceive, simply ignore the situation or try to divert the focus, leaving the other person frustrated and without answers. The most alarming thing is that these people see no problem with this behavior. For them, the truth and the trust of others have little or no value. If lying can bring them some benefit, whether power, status, money, or even simple amusement, they will do it without hesitation. Some lie compulsively, just for the pleasure of deceiving and manipulating those around them, testing how far they can go without being discovered. If you live with someone who blatantly lies without showing any remorse, be careful. People like this don't care about the impact their falsehoods can have on others. For them, it all comes down to serving their own interests. Trust is the foundation of any healthy relationship, and if someone repeatedly shows that they don't value it, the best thing you can do is walk away before you end up being another victim of their game. Until now, we've discussed how bad people are controlling, manipulative, lying, and insensitive to the suffering of others. They exude a negative energy that affects everyone around them, and, to make matters worse, they never feel regret for anything they do. This is perhaps one of the most frightening characteristics of these people, the complete absence of remorse. Regardless of the damage they cause, whether emotional, psychological, or even physical, they simply move on as if nothing happened. If confronted, they will not only avoid any kind of apology, but they will also reverse the situation to make the blame fall on you. They are experts at distorting reality, leading their victims to question their own feelings and perceptions. You can be absolutely sure you were wronged, but they will make it seem like it's all just an exaggeration of your mind. This behavior is not random. It's part of a well-calculated pattern. People without remorse see no reason to apologize because for them, regret is synonymous with weakness. Admitting a mistake would mean lowering their guard, and this is something they avoid at all costs. They believe they always need to be in control, and to maintain this position, they prefer to deny reality and manipulate others than to take responsibility for their own actions. The most dangerous thing is that since these people don't care about the consequences of their actions, they have no moral limits. If to maintain their position of control and power they need to deceive, hurt, or destroy someone, they will do it without thinking twice. The suffering of others does not awaken in them any empathy or compassion, only the satisfaction of seeing that their strategy worked. If you deal with someone like this, be careful. Never expect a genuine apology or a moment of regret, because this is simply not part of these people's nature. The best thing you can do is walk away and prevent them from continuing to exert their destructive power over your life. Until now, we have talked about how bad people act in a manipulative, calculating, and cold way to achieve their goals without showing remorse. However, some of them are not content with acting sneakily. On the contrary, they choose to display their evil explicitly through cruelty. Cruelty can manifest in various ways: sharp words that deeply hurt, verbal or physical attacks, public humiliations, emotional blackmail, and even the destruction of the self-esteem of those around them. Bad people can be aggressive and violent, seeking to provoke unnecessary fights just for the pleasure of seeing others suffer. Often, their targets are precisely those who should receive love and respect, such as spouses, children, friends, and close family members. But why do these people act like this? In many cases, they live trapped in a cycle of frustration and bitterness, unable to deal with their own internal pains. Unable to seek a healthy solution for their own frustrations, they choose to take it out on others, spreading suffering so that no one around them is happy. For them, the pain of others serves as a temporary relief for their own dissatisfaction. Another worrying trait of these people is their lack of empathy. If they don't see a direct benefit in maintaining contact with you, they simply don't care about your well-being. Your presence is only relevant if they can gain some advantage from it. Otherwise, they become cold, indifferent, or even worse, aggressive. In many cases, their malicious actions are not impulsive, but intentional. They seek to deliberately hurt, whether to assert power, control, or simply for the pleasure of seeing the other suffer. If you notice that someone around you acts with gratuitous cruelty, keep in mind that this person is unlikely to change. The best way to protect yourself is to set firm boundaries and, if necessary, cut ties before your mental and emotional health are compromised. After all, no one deserves to live with someone who feeds on the pain of others. We don't always see the true nature of a person right away. Often, we are emotionally involved, deluded by an image they themselves have built, or we simply want to believe the best about someone. However, one of the clearest signs that you may be dealing with someone truly ill-intentioned is when those who love you try to warn you about that person. If close friends or family members express concern about the behavior of someone you are spending time with, take it seriously. They may have noticed something you haven't yet, or worse, they may already know about that person's history. Often, the warnings come with stories about past relationships, whether friendships or romantic relationships that ended in a troubled way due to that person's toxic behavior. It may be that former partners have distanced themselves because of manipulations, lies, abuse, or destructive attitudes that only became evident over time. A common tactic of bad people is to minimize or even distort the problems they had in the past, putting all the blame on the other side. If you hear excuses like, "My ex was crazy," "People are always envious of me," or "No one ever understands me," be alert. This type of speech can be a sign that this person has never taken responsibility for their own mistakes and is trying to manipulate your perception to avoid questions. Although it's natural to want to give the benefit of the doubt and believe that maybe others are exaggerating, ignoring the signs can be a serious mistake. Many victims of toxic relationships report that, in the beginning, they received warnings but chose not to listen, and ended up suffering the same pains as those who came before. If people who love you and want your good demonstrate concern and insist that you be careful with someone, pay attention. What happened to others can easily happen to you if you are not careful. Trust the warnings of those who care about you before it's too late. Among all forms of manipulation, one of the cruelest and most destructive practiced by bad people is emotional manipulation. And one of their favorite weapons to exert control over others is belittlement. Belittlement can manifest in various ways, some more subtle, others extremely direct. It can start with seemingly harmless comments, small jokes, or playful remarks that, in reality, carry disguised criticism and humiliation. Over time, these people begin to ridicule your appearance, mock your dreams, dismiss your goals, criticize your friends, or belittle your achievements. No area of your life is safe. If there is something you value or are proud of, you can be sure that a bad person will find a way to undermine it. Another common strategy of these people is to play the victim when confronted. If you defend yourself or question their behavior, they quickly reverse the situation, pretending that you are being unfair or exaggerating. In this way, they try to make you doubt yourself and end up feeling guilty, when in reality, the guilt was never yours. This psychological game can be extremely dangerous as it undermines your self-esteem and weakens your confidence over time. The goal of these people is clear: to diminish you so that you feel small, dependent, and powerless to react. The more weakened you are, the more control they will have over you. But it is essential to remember one thing: no one has the right to define your worth. You don't need the validation of people who only want to tear you down. If someone in your life constantly tries to make you feel less than you really are, question whether that person deserves to continue by your side. Don't let someone's emotional poison extinguish your light or make you doubt yourself. Stay away from those who don't value you and surround yourself with people who truly support you and make you grow. Now, a bonus tip. If there is an undeniable sign that a person has a dubious character, it is the way he treats animals. Cruelty against defenseless beings not only demonstrates a lack of empathy, but can also indicate deeper traits of evil. Research suggests that people who mistreat animals often exhibit abusive behaviors towards other human beings as well. Therefore, if you know someone who has shown this type of attitude, be aware. This is a big warning about his true nature. Now stop and think. Have you ever come across someone who acts in a cold and calculating way, exploiting others for advantage? Perhaps this person has caused emotional or physical harm to those around him without showing any remorse. If any name came to your mind, this is no coincidence. Often, we deceive ourselves by believing that we can change those who hurt us. Affection, friendship, or respect can blind us to the true essence of certain people. However, the reality is harsh. Someone genuinely evil does not seek redemption. They do not want to be saved. And insisting on this can end up harming only you. The best choice? Protect yourself. Stepping away from people like that is not cowardice, but an act of self-love. And you? Do you know other signs that indicate we are dealing with a truly bad person? Leave your comment below, as I would love to know your opinion. Ending Matrix transmission.